for any veterans out there that would love some resources, definitely go to our um, website, www.unstoppableovercomers.com. There is a complete list there that was given to me by one of our veterans that we've had on our show. So lots there. Just go check it out. There's just click on the tab for veteran resources and it's all there.
Awesome. Welcome to the Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast.
Hi, I'm Dorothy Odell. I am the founder of Unstoppable Overcomers Productions, where collided with the veteran community 3.5 years ago. And since then, we have been on a mission to help our military men and women, whether that be active duty, veteran, or even first responders. We even have a show called A Journey in Boots from Trauma to Triumph, of which we hosted Josh on our show. And that's how I came across Warrior Games. And so, had him on and love what you're doing and really want to learn more about the community.
This is great. So we've had a few folks on the show who will resonate with the phrase unstoppable. So I'm curious, what does it mean to you, and how did you and why did you choose that particular word?
That's a loaded question.
It is.
My life has been nothing but being unstoppable. Chaos from a very young age, being unstoppable in a household where lots of love, but my parents were chronically sick. So I grew up really quickly, helped a lot around the house. Went from that. I had a lot of bullying growing up, a lot of kids that were very cruel, which led to extreme low self-esteem, which led to a verbal and mental abusive relationship. And so getting myself out of that constant state of chaos and being unstoppable in that. And of course, my family is no stranger to mental health. We lost an uncle to suicide Christmas Day 24 years ago. So everything that I've done, I feel like I've been unstoppable and just continued right through, putting one foot in front of the other. And that's basically all I've known my entire life.
Wow, I think this is your area. Yeah.
And a big part of trauma and healing comes differently for many people. And for you, it's been surrounding yourself in the medical world, quite frankly. It's usually the last place people want to be. And what I've learned is even though certain medical conditions can be common, the experience can be quite isolating. So, how are you able to navigate the uniqueness of your situation while also seeing yourself as a normal part of society as anybody else?
Well, here's the thing. I didn't think it wasn't normal until the last traumatic event, which was about five years ago started. My dad got cancer. And so, watched him have a stroke at 30, all this other stuff, degenerative disc, nerve on nerve, an extreme amount of pain, basically his entire life. And when he got cancer, I had to take a deep breath, because when you're told that your hero has a life-changing illness. I mean, he get kidney disease. Only guy in the planet that I know that's had dialysis, got off dialysis without a transplant and lived to tell about it. But when that happened, I was also just got engaged. I work in a high stress job. And we were asked, hey, if anybody in the family would like to seek counseling, they were more than happy to give us a counselor or social worker. And I was the only one that took advantage of that. I'm like, okay, there's just a lot going on, and why not? It's free. Why not? Right? Why would you not take it? I literally spilled my guts of 40 years worth of trauma, or I don't consider it trauma, but I guess in some cases it would be trauma. Dumped it all 40 years out onto her in a 1-hour session. And then she says, what's your self-care like? I'm like, lady, did you not just hear what I said? There's no time for self-care, right? You know, planning a wedding, dad just got sick, all this. And she said, you know, you have to make time for yourself, because if not, you're going to beat your dad to the grave by having a heart attack. And I'm just like, okay. So that was the first time that I decided that that was going to be a shift and started putting myself first. Any other time up until that moment, I've done everything by myself. And not sure what your beliefs are, but I definitely believe that it was divinely appointed 7 friends to me the year before my dad got sick. And I met them on LinkedIn. And I was supposed to go on a podcast, somebody's podcast. And she said, you know, I really want to connect you to this woman named Jen, because I had just put my book out. And she goes, you know, Jen does Jen's Happy Mail. I think it would be great that I connect you to. Never went on the woman's podcast, but Jen led me to 6 other women that have been my rock, and I call them my tribe. So since then, this has been the first time in my life that I've actually had women surround me that say, okay, you know, we're going to help you get past this, get to the next level. We help each other. It's not just them helping me, but we help each other. So ironically enough, 40 years did it myself. I kept a lot for my family. I didn't want to burden my parents with this, because they've always been sick. So why burden them with that, right? That was my mentality anyways. And I'm the exception to the rule. So I'm not like most people, and that's okay. So yeah, it's been putting one foot in front of the other until my dad got sick. And then I reached out for help.
So this is very interesting. We hit on this topic a lot, which is you can't do it alone. Like
Right.
you can try, you're gonna just beat your head against the wall. And there's been so many success stories on our show about folks pretty much surrendering, right? And then getting into a tribe. And I'm very interested to see your viewpoints. There are people out there who are like, if it's got to be, it's up to me, right? And so,
Mhm.
can you give some key points or some nuggets on the significant difference in perspective and life when you have a tribe?
Oh, absolutely. I have felt extremely isolated and alone growing up, like going through those things. You just, you know, very isolating. There were moments that I could honestly say that I thought life would probably be a lot better without me, a lot of times. But there was one thing that kept me going, and that was my nephews. My brother blessed me to be an auntie at a decent enough young age, that, you know, got me through some of that. And so, you know, just keeping focus on one thing that makes you go past each and every day, right? But the difference, I believe, with having my tribe, um, it's the first time I've actually been able to call somebody up, and I can trust any one of these women with anything that I have to say. And that I didn't trust a lot of people growing up, you know, because a lot of people let me down, right? Whether they verbally abuse or mentally abuse or things like that. It was constant. So I didn't trust a lot of people. So that was really difficult for me to be able to, you know, the first time one of them said, hey, you need any help, call me. And I'm just like, yeah, for why? What are you going to want in return? Right. Um, and there's always a price to pay for something, is how we were taught growing up. Right. So, having to let that go, having to allow these women to come in, and it hasn't been easy, but I can honestly say it has been totally worth it. Now, like I'm from Windsor, Ontario, so I pick up and I'll drive to Chicago to go see my friends, because that's where most of them are at. It's a 7 hour drive. So you know, hop in the car and go. And it's great. My husband has actually built relationships with um at least one of the husbands in the group. Um and so that's been awesome, because he's very much keeps to himself. He's a gamer, by the way. Huge gamer.
Awesome. So I'm from Chicago. I'm in Chicago right now.
Are
And
you?
thank you so much for joining us. I think there's so much that you can share with our listeners. One of the things we often talk about is finding your strength and your courage to actually reach out for help. That very, you said only one person took up the offer of actually getting some kind of help. What would you say to folks who are sort of still in that bit of a wallow and don't know where to turn or what to do? How would you encourage them to find, the next best feeling thought to sort of help make them at least feel the desire or the need to that help will actually even be helpful?
So I have a different mentality than most people. I rush into it, the burning building. I don't wait and watch it burn down, right? So I would say just do it. Could you, even if it's just like a friend or a colleague that, or if it's one of your people that you've been deployed with, reach out to somebody. And if that person is not available, just keep trying to reach out. Uh, I never want to see anybody alone. And if you truly feel that there is absolutely no one out there for you and you attempted to reach out or you still kind of hesitant, get on somebody's podcast, show or something that you can identify with. Because I mean, how many podcasts are there out there right now? I mean, I've got 3 myself, plus there's this one here. Reach out, listen to this to give you enough hope to keep on going. Uh, you know, find something that you're interested in. A lot of us, since COVID, I've noticed that we isolate ourselves even more, even though we're allowed to leave our homes here in Canada. We were on such strict orders that unless you were an essential worker, you could not leave your home. And I was blessed to work in an essential service. So I was able to leave the house. However, I have a husband that has autoimmune disease, a stepson that has an autoimmune disease, and a father that was fighting cancer. So it's not like, we had to stay in our bubble. And I think a lot of people still stay in their bubbles and don't know how to get out of their bubble. So, quite frankly, it took me forever to go to an in-person networking meeting after COVID, just because I was used to this, right? Because we've been on Zoom, we've been on StreamYard, we've been doing that. And to get back into the everyday with people was difficult. So just push yourself a little bit, uh, and just push yourself a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, until you finally do it, right? It's funny. So Carrie Stewart is a Gulf War veteran. He's a yoga master. Uh, I don't want to get his name wrong, but something about bliss. Sorry, Carrie, if I don't get it 100% right. But I'll get you the information. Anyways, he has this saying, because he's also part of Warriors Ascent, where they say, um, so most of these guys that go to Warriors Ascent, they're ready. Some of them show up with a gun in their what do you call that, glove box, because they're thinking this is my last hope. This is, if you don't get me out of the funk that I'm in, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put the gun to my head and I'm going to eat the bullet. And so Carrie's favorite saying is, just give me one more day. Call me tomorrow and then give me one more day. Just give me one more day. And so one more day leads to like a month, leads to a year type thing. But if you can get through that just one more day. And when I heard Carrie say that, that's stuck in my head.
What do you say? There's a lot of folks out there that, like, it's a lot of work to help people and to be there for people and to answer the phone and hear them vocalize and emotionalize what they're going through. We have a lot of high performers who tune in and are on our board and that we know networking. And there is a thing we haven't really talked about this on the show much, but there's a thing where it's like, this is a lot of work, and I don't know if I'm going to get return on my investment sitting here for hours helping people. So can you talk a little bit about that aspect of it for folks who might be the ones on the other line?
It is tiring. And I have to say that you really need to make sure that this is something that you want to do, right? You got to make sure that this is something that you want to continue to help people with. But in the same time, you really need to do self-care on yourself as well. Because listening to story after story after story is very tiring. And also you can get drained yourself and, think thoughts that you normally wouldn't think, right? So having your own therapist or your own person that you could bounce certain things off as well. But self-care is essential. It's not, yeah, okay, I'll get to it someday. It's absolutely essential, especially if you're working with people that have had mental health issues.
But I think more importantly, like, you always need to have someone that you're bringing up, right? Like, there's always someone who would die to be in our position, right? Maybe not talking to that extreme, but like, there's always people we should be mentoring, and there is a heck of a lot of people who are not mentoring. They're just like, I don't have time. So there is a massive benefit though inside of us, and we change into a person, and there's a lot more return to us that I think you can speak to, because you've been that person on the other end where someone was there taking time out of their life, out of their profession, their family, to help you. How do you think those people benefited from your journey?
I know that basically if you've gone to a life of service, I don't know about you, but when I help somebody out, it's like a dopamine hit for me. It really is. It is like when I started the show almost 4 years ago, my goal was if I could reach one a day or one per show, then it would be worth it. And so many times I've wanted to quit, like, because either the numbers weren't there that I thought I should have, or like no one's responding to your show. So you're thinking you're not doing any good. And then out of the blue, someone actually says, because of you, I didn't give up today. To me, that's the best damn feeling in the world. And you really have to remember those moments to get yourself through the other side. And what I would hope that my social worker got was, she did help me through a lot. And I'm no longer with her. She ended up switching hospitals. So I didn't feel like telling my whole life story to somebody else again. Right. I'd gotten through it, so I didn't want to relive it. And
let me pick up that nugget though, because it's a huge thing, right? And Bilal and April, like, this is teeing up for you, right? When you tell your story and you get it all out, you just said basically, I didn't feel like telling it again. So the trauma associated with that story, like, can you speak to that? Like, it's not as powerful, or didn't have as much hold on you, if you could.
Honestly, by sharing my story, it doesn't have that hold on me anymore. I can talk about my ex that was like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and I don't cry. I don't have any ill feelings towards him. I wish him well. I really do. But I've shared my story, I don't know how many times. Like it took opening up to therapists to do it. And then since then, it's been like a canary. And each time I tell it, it gets something different. Like I've never shared my uncle's story to the degree that I have when I did a 24-hour fundraiser for veterans. And I think we were in our 20th hour. Granted, I've had no sleep, but out of the blue, it came out more fully about his story and the impact of his suicide had on us. Right. And so it was in that moment. And since then, it's just like a light bulb has come off. And so I'm openly sharing my story each and every day. I put a lot of it on social media because I know that if anything, when I see that message a year from now, I know I'm not going to be the same person. So if I help no one else that day, I help me. So I hope that answers your question.
It's great. It's very important. It's not a key thing that a lot of people hone in on.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. I know we see the number 22 a day a lot, but those are real people that we are, and that's why we're here. And I'm probably sure it's more than that. That's just that's how we count. But what drives you to do this work? What keeps you in this seat? What excites you? What lights you up about this work? And what do you see yourself doing in the future with it?
Well, that's a great question and a loaded one. So it's funny, every time I try and get away from the veteran community, it's like I'm swept right back, right? And I don't think it, and these men and women to me are like brothers and sisters. I have several family members that have served, so I'm no stranger to being. My uncle was in the armed forces here in Canada. I had a great grandfather that was in the Navy. I have a nephew that's serving right now, and my dad's uncles all served, including I had my godfather served in Vietnam. So I came from a long line of people of service. I have never served myself, and cadets, like my dad and my brother and that were in cadets. Um, so I guess that's not really it is a form, but it's not really a form. They served, let's just put it that way. And so I thought, how can I serve the people that have served, right? And especially when I heard 22 a day, when Greg Bicknell came on my show and shared 3 years ago that 22 veterans a day were dying by suicide, that lit me up like I've never been lit up before. Because number one, I was no stranger to suicide and what that could do to a family. And number two, when I heard the other stats, like a 95% divorce rate amongst our military or first responders, like, hello, who's helping these men and women, right? And then by hearing their stories, especially police officer Jonathan Gahuli, who was a police officer in Florida, when he shared with me, all I wanted to do was come home and take a shower. The amount of stuff he'd seen in his shift, he just wanted to wash it all away. And of course, his wife being at home with the kids all day just wanted 10 minutes to herself. But if all she would have given him was 15 minutes to go wash off what he had seen, he would have gladly taken his kids. But they don't speak about the pressures, right? And that's what drives me. I want the spouse to know, hey, wait a minute, they're not going to come home and tell you everything, right? I remember one of his stories was they had seen a child in a microwave. And you're not going to tell that to your wife, right? Or your husband. You're not going to share that. And so by protecting them, they're not really protecting them, right? And I get that there's confidentiality. You can't share everything with your spouse anyways. But by having the spouse see the other side, do you know how many marriages we could save, right? And instead of having a 95% divorce rate or whatever it is, and I heard that the 22 a day went to 44. Someone tried to tell me it went down, but no, I don't think it did. Not to mention the fact of the military sexual trauma that I just found out about. Every time I come around, I'm finding something new. I'm like, okay, so let's get the men and women the help they need for this and that. And unfortunately, I don't know if it's ever going to stop finding out new things that have happened, but at least if we get people the help that they need before they decide to that, becoming a statistic. Let's change the statistic. Let's get rid of the statistic. Let's put a new statistic. Right. And so that is my driving force, giving our men and women a platform to share the story if they want to. I just had a sister of a Vietnam veteran come on my show the other day. She wrote a story, Pennies from Vietnam. So her brother said, he's going to send pennies home, and he ended up sending letters home. What ended up happening was Larry came back a different guy after what he's seen in Vietnam. Didn't want to talk about it. And so after Larry died, she found all these letters. In that, she went and found Larry's platoon and the people that he had served with. Those men had constantly not been talking. Thank you. Had not been talking about their experiences in Vietnam. Since Tracy went and said, hey, here's Larry's story, those men are now sharing their story of Vietnam. There's not a Vietnam veteran out there that usually shares their story about Vietnam. So sharing your story is powerful. And by Tracy saying, okay, I'm going to keep my brother's memory alive, she has helped so many. He was part of the Calvary. And so she speaks in front of the Calvary all the time. And so it's a trickle effect. And that's what I want. There's actually a sign on my desk over there says the mission is to change the world. And that's what I want to do.
That's impressive. This has like incredible reviews. Yeah. Good. Well, that's great. So I was at American Valor 2 weeks ago. It's the foundation that's memorializing all of the military folks' stories, and they're focusing hard on Korean War and Vietnam vets now. And I mean, some of the stories are just incredibly compelling, and it's very refreshing to see the stories come out, because really, like, the goal here is to avoid this again in the future. War is very, very, very costly, and it's just not worth the blood and treasure. It just isn't. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Not only is it costly in money, but it's costly in lives. Look at one person going off to war. How many does that affect? How many triple effect is that? Not only their spouse, if they're married, their parents, because the parents are gonna, like, Larry's parents were never the same after Larry went to Vietnam, right? And back then, I think Tracy said they had a TV, but the parents were glued to it. Ended up, I think the dad ended up, not 100% sure, but I think the dad ended up turning to alcohol. So how many lives did that affect, right? By one person going off to war. It's insane. And of course, they don't, they get some help, but not a lot of help. And then, of course, when they transition out of the military, well, that's a whole other thing. Like, we could be a whole episode just talking about transitioning. And I firmly believe, and I need to find people that are going to be changing that from the inside out. So, this crap of 2 weeks, a 2-week course before you transition out. No. Let's get them the help inside first before you decide to transition out. If you can train to kill, you can train them to learn how to be able to mentally handle that. Hello. Like, to me, that's only common sense. So if we can start changing the policies and laws within the military to help while they're still in, I would love to see that in my lifetime. Will I see it? I don't know. But maybe somebody listening to this show can help me do that. I don't know.
Ken knows people in very high places, and he just transitioned himself. And what I was saying is we need transition in. What are you transitioning into? They leave all of this structure and all of this, clarity, and then they say, figure it out in this big wide world of a million options. And it's the same with all of the transition points from high school to college, from college to the work world. We don't have the support for the transition points yet, but I think we're building them. Ken, what do you think, as someone who's recently gone through that?
So the problem is we have a VA and a DoD, right? So the DoD doesn't care at all. They spit people out and they don't care, right? How much work it takes to fix these people. So I think a combination of the two makes a lot of sense in many respects. But right now, like, the transition is focused on, like, can we get you a job? And I'm like, I have a job. So I had like almost zero to do because it was just so much about just getting a job. And I'm like, what about, like, where's the classes for, like, my wife, my kids? Like, where's all that? So it's the effort's there, but they still don't get it. Like, it's a holistic experience, like, This is a huge, like, I am helping run this show. I'm on the board of 2 foundations that specialize in transitions, and that transition was hard and emotional. And so I'm like, man, can you imagine like someone who's been in 5 or 6 years, deployed 4 or 5 times, and they make the transition? I'd be like, these people are posed, like this is very difficult. So I agree, April, but I just think it's like they're still just kind of like Lego blocking the approach right now, from my personal experience. Way better than it used to be, but still just woefully inadequate mentally for that mental change.
How long were you in Ken?
25 years.
Wow. Well,
Yeah,
thank
that's
you
all
for
I
your
know.
service.
You're welcome. It was like just the stupid stuff. Like I was like, I don't even know how to like register my car. Like I mean, like what am I doing here? And like it was just like there was a lot of very weird is healthcare. Still, I have no idea. I just have no. I'm just like, babe, don't get sick because I have no clue how this crap works. Like deductibles and in network, out network. What? Oh.
All right, so I'm going to connect you with Anna Larson. So Anna Larson is a spouse of I think her husband was a Marine, but don't quote me. So she has a whole organization for the spouses. And one of the first things she said when her husband transitioned out was, I didn't even know how to make a doctor's appointment. Because you're told which doctor to go to, right? So she was like, she felt completely dumb. She goes, how do you do that? She called up her friend and said, how do you make a doctor's appointment and where do you go to, right? And so that's everybody could laugh their butt off, but as somebody who's just basically told what to do, where to go and whatever, that's what you're used to. So I will connect you to Anna and we'll get you what you need.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. All right. So Bilal, April, let's hit on some key points and then awesome. So Bilal, you wanna
I mean, Ken and April, you've asked some amazing questions surrounding themes that are talked about often on this podcast. So I wanted to do the same. One of our frequently discussed themes is flow. It can mean a lot of things to different people. I had to bring it up.
Yeah.
You can define it as a number of different ways. I mean, I don't want to sit here and give my definition because I'm sure it means something different to you. But one thing, Dorothy, that I liked about everything that you've said is that it's extremely concrete. I can picture it. Sometimes when folks speak, they speak in these ideals and these visions, but it's intangible. But everything you said sounds very stepwise, as in something you said earlier, you just put one foot in front of the other. Everything you said for the past 30, 40 minutes is a reflection of that mindset. And I really love that. And it sounds easy, but as you said, it takes a lot of work. The reason I ask about the flow state is because we believe here at Warrior Gamer, and I'm sure others can agree, that the automaticity of flow has a therapeutic effect, such that it allows for the passive healing of traumas through action. How has flow manifested in your life once you've started that healing phase?
That's a good question. I would say that wow, you have me stumped. I don't think people have stumped me yet.
We get that a lot on the show, by the way.
Yeah.
So.
We try to ask unique questions.
When I think of flow, I think of like the river flowing, right? And how do I, for me, like I said, putting the one foot in front of the other was the flow. But okay, so recently, I would say within the last year, I've really taken a deep look inward instead of my outer world, right? And so what makes me me, what makes me tick? And for decades, I could tell you it was making sure everybody was taken care of. That was my thing, right? That was my drug of choice. I just did a what do you call that? A social media, like a blog type thing the other day on that. And so my drug of choice was making sure everybody was taken care of. So if they were okay, then I was okay. Until I got sick of that. I'm just like, well, what about me, right? And so getting into, I guess, my flow state each morning, my meditation, I've added meditation to my life the last 4 years. So I get up an hour before everybody in my house. I want the first hour to be by myself. I do my meditation, I do my journaling, I do my gratitude. Which if I don't do it, my day does not flow. I really, the days that I was just like, sometimes on the weekend, I'm not 100% rigid, especially on Sunday mornings. Because Sunday mornings, I try and give myself a little bit of grace, but then it doesn't always work. So if I'm in flow in the morning, getting myself up, getting me right with the world and my inner dialogue, then it flows pretty good. So I guess that's my thing of flow. I didn't really think of it that way. So thank you for asking that.
Of course. And you made an important comment because flow, as I've used the word automatic, it's hard to make something automatic that you have to try extra hard to do. So it has to be a conscious piece by piece effort. And one of the biggest and best ways to create an automatic workflow is to create a routine.
Yes.
That's what you did. And that's beautiful. That's great advice. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. However, my husband decided now he's going to get up a little bit early. So he gets
Oh
into my
no.
routine. And I'm like, dude, I have not said nothing. And he probably won't listen to this show because he doesn't listen to my shows. So
Fair enough.
but I'm like,
Funny.
I get up this early so I could like set myself up. And here you are playing video games first thing in the morning.
I love that. That's hilarious. And then we are fans of games here at Warrior Gamer. And that's one amazing way to get into a flow state is through gaming and through rhythm games and other games. I have a question for you though. You sound really well read and learned, and I would wonder, like I love reading like Joe Dispenza, Jim Quick, James Clear with Atomic Habits. What authors have you read that have led you to this peace and to this confidence and to this sense of yourself that you are not you are going to be you no matter what. You're not going to buckle or burst or Esther Hicks too. I listened. She says, may your how did she say it? May your chain be unyankable, may your feathers be unruffable, may your buttons be unpushable, and be who you are.
Well, yes, I've listened to definitely Esther Hicks. I'm trying to get up my library for you. So I Declare by Joel Osteen's one of them. I have Kathleen Cameron has become my new mentor the last 6 months. Oh my gosh. Amazing. She's taken me through spaces that no one else has. A 12 week year. Who is that by here? By Brian Morian. That's one of them. The Gap and the Gain by Dr. Dan Sullivan. Rachel Rogers, We Should All Be Millionaires. There is a spiritual solution to every problem by Dr. Wayne Dyer. Can't Hurt Me by the amazing David Goggins. Gotta definitely listen to that. Listen to it. You can buy the book, but if you listen to the Audible guys, you get the podcast in between. He's got a podcast with him and his writer. So I highly recommend that. The 4 Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss.
Love him.
Rich as, I don't know if you're allowed to swear on this show, but Fuck by Amanda
Yeah.
Francis, great one. Secrets of the Spiritual Mind by T. Harv Eker. Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. The Power of Consistency by Weldon Long. I mean, I can keep going if you'd like. The Code of Extraordinary Mind I've listened to. Rachel Hollis Didn't See That Coming. And of course, the Atomic Habits. I've read that thing 4 or 5 times, especially when I was doing 75 hard. If you've done nothing else in your life, folks, I challenge you to do 75 hard for 75 days. If I can do it, anybody in the world can do it. So definitely, that's another thing. Get yourself into flow with that. Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. Ask and It's Given by Esther Hicks. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Blank. The Miracle Morning. Yeah. There you go.
Best answer ever for that question.
Yep.
There's more, but I mean, I didn't want
you.
to take up the rest of the podcast.
No, I think the fact though is that you seek out. I do the same thing. Ken's libraries. We could read it for 9 hours, just the titles. People who care about themselves, like you opened with self-care. We take the time to read from those who actually teach you how to care. It's not something that just comes natural. It's not something that's taught in school, but it is all over the place on YouTube to be found. Oh, there you go.
And then you got to read my 2 books. You know, there we go. Since I may as well put the plug in.
Yes, put the plug in. Actually, can you put all the plugs in? Tell us your podcast. Tell us your books. We'll put links up when we repost.
Yes. So the books can be bought on Amazon. So it's The Overcomer: Facing Challenges with Faith and Courage. And then, of course, The Overcomer Playbook, because football has always been a thing of mine, about my family's. And of course, my dad was the Steelers fan, right? So I took the 7 steps that I became to become the Overcomer and put it into a playbook for everybody. So they're both on Amazon. My podcast, I call them live shows because I see myself as the next Oprah, because it's more than just a podcast, right? And so we are on YouTube, we're on Roku, we're on Spotify, we're on iHeartRadio. Yeah, and it's Unstoppable Overcomers. And basically all 3 of the shows are on the one YouTube channel. Same thing with Roku. If you go to Unstoppable Overcomers on Roku, you'll find us all there.
Got it. Taking notes.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, this was awesome, hard hitting. We love that here. We love where it just kind of goes left and right, and we don't know where this train's going to head. A lot of really important nuggets here. I think we've hit a bunch of topics and gotten nuggets that we've not gotten before, which is really wonderful when we hear that and see that. So I want to thank you for your time. I know it's very precious. You're a very busy gal on a heck of a mission, multiple missions, and we're very thankful and blessed to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure getting to know each and every one of you. And let me know how we can serve you as well. I just want to put it out there for our veterans and first responders. I don't know if you've heard of the group called Angels 14. I talk about this group all the time. It is a veteran organization that was started by 2 veterans and a Vietnamese refugee, and went Fridays at noon via Zoom. And so if anybody who's interested, it's basically more for like camaraderie, connection, that type of thing. We are there for everybody. Allies are allowed. That's why I'm one of them anyways. I've never currently served, but I served them. So, it's, I'm like I'm their sister. They're my brothers. There you go. So if anybody's interested and needs that camaraderie and connection, join us. We'd love to have you Fridays at noon, just an open invitation, and the more the merrier. I told them if we get up to 1,000 people, I'm willing to fundraise to get it covered.
Oh, all right. Let's put her to her word. I like it.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. And folks can just Google that, or you can look down in the show notes.
Yeah.
So,
I'll give
yeah.
you the link because they're on LinkedIn. So
Oh, okay. All right, great.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Madame. Appreciate your time and inspiration. It's awesome. If people watch like all of our shows, they will be unstoppable by this point, especially after this episode. So we want to thank you again for your time and energy and just your character. Thank you again, Dorothy. And with that, Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast out.
Warrior Gamer Headquarters Podcast. Out.